Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you are tuning in from. This is the BS Buddies podcast. I'm your host, Joe. That's your host, Ian. And today, we're going to talk about board games. Our favorites, maybe our least favorites, ones we want to get into. Just whatever we can come up with.
I'm gonna take a gamble because this just popped in my mind. I'm gonna throw in some card games into there too because I feel like
That works too.
like Uno and Phase 10 and all that fits in there.
Card games, board games, whatever we can think. Tabletop
Whatever
games.
we got going on. Yeah, I don't I don't have much of an opening for this one. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it when we were thinking about it.
Hey, I just let it rip. I had no idea what I was going to say.
Like I said earlier, it's been forever since I've played a board game. Card games has been a bit more recent, usually like the camping episode that we just had. Callback. We play some card games then, and usually when you have like family get-togethers. But our card games that we do now is usually more the, I don't want to say mature, but the more bland stuff like poker or rummy or In Between, which is a game that me and my family play. We bet quarters on. So that one's always a fun one, but no board games as of recent. It's been quite a while, and honestly, that's kind of a shame. It would be nice to have like a day or a weekend just to get together with some friends and sit down, and like play a board game. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, my problem has been like for board games with the people I talk to the most, like all of them live hours away.
And I know it makes it difficult. And
I was just going to go back to card games, but if you wanted to add something quick.
Well, I was just going to say that I know with like phones and computers, we can get together and do like the digital versions and stuff like that. But there's something that I just feel is not quite as in person as having like the game there before you on the table with all of your friends around. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. There's something about having like the physical aspect of it before you that I really love. Don't mind me while I adjust my seat. Everything's all uncomfortable on my end. Just having a hard time tonight, man.
Oh, I feel that. But I want to circle back to card games. I don't play a whole lot anymore. Like you said, Uno I really like. One that I grew up playing is 31. If you've ever heard of it.
Yes, actually, I do know 31.
Some people play 21, and it's the same game, but
play that in Vegas.
Not blackjack. I'm not talking blackjack.
I've played 21. Maybe not the same version of 21, but I played 21.
If you don't know what it is, basically you take turns going around the table. And I learned from the best. I learned from my grandma and her elderly friends growing up. Like, I played card games against older ladies who played card games every single day. So I got pretty good.
You got all the tricks down. All the tricks.
So basically, you have 3 cards, and there's one face-up card. And once it's your turn, you can either draw or pick up the face-up card. And you just swap out cards constantly. And the goal is to get 31, which is a face card and an ace. And once you get 31, you win. Otherwise, if you have a high hand, let's say you have 29, so you have a 9 and 2 face cards, you can knock, and then everyone gets one more turn, and then you lay down your cards, and whoever has the highest wins.
We played that here a couple of times once. Like me and the other guys that there was, I think we had like 2 or 3 hands in a row where like the hand would just start out, and just for clarification, by the way, the cards have to be the same suit. At least that's how we played it. And so where it gets difficult is that you can either draw from the face down pile or the discard pile. But if you draw from the discard pile, then everyone knows what suit of cards that you're going for, and they can block you. And the hand would just start, and we did like one draw, and one of the guys drew, and he's like, and knocked right away, and it was like, man, I don't even have a single card that matches any other suit of any of the other cards in my hand. How are you knocking already? And yeah, it just turns out that he had like the best deal that he could have possibly gotten. And oh man, that game definitely is. It's quick and it's a lot of fun to play. I enjoy that one.
I don't know growing up if I played it to get the same suit. Maybe the people I was playing with just said, hey, we'll just do whatever, but just because I was so young. Like, I was playing this at like 6, 7 years old.
Yeah. Well, and I think house rules can vary a lot because there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Like, I think we did it with 5 cards in your hand, and you just had to build a suit as close to 31 as possible. It didn't have to be a specific set of cards to get there. It just had to be as close as you could to 31 with all in the same suit. So I think house rules can change it up a little bit, but yeah, that's always been a good one. Although I didn't really know that one until a few years ago when my buddy introduced us to it and we all played it. But that one's always a fun one.
I have 2 more card games, at least with like regular playing cards. I have one separate card game that I like to play. Another standard playing card game, golf. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Doesn't sound familiar.
I love this game. So everyone starts off with 4 cards, and they're all face down. And you get to see 2 of those face down cards, only 2 of them. And what you want to do, you want to get the lowest score like in golf. So you want low cards. It's not.
Don't
like
ask why I have these randomly in my. I remembered I had them in my cabinet. I was like, I'm gonna pull them out. It's 2 jokers and the informationals.
You have them face down in a square, and you can see 2 of the cards. Are you playing as I'm?
Yes, I'm laying it out as you're going. Continue. I'm gonna pretend that I'm doing this just to get the experience.
So 2 of the cards, and you want to get the lowest score possible. But if you have the same card, so let's say you have a 10 and a 7 as your cards, you want to try, and it has a discard pile and just the regular pile, and you want to try and get a 10 and a 7, because if you have that, they cancel each other out. So you want to get the same kind of cards, and if you have 3 of a kind, you subtract 1. So if you had 3 10s and a 7, you would have 6 technically. But if you had 2 10s and 2 7s, you would be at 0. So all the cards cancel each other out. So everyone has 4 turns to, and once you get a card, like you pick one up, you can either pick one up or flip one. And once you pick one, you got to flip a card. So then people, as the game goes on, they see what you have, so then they can kind of block you as well.
Yeah, okay. So it's definitely a competitive card game. You're playing for yourself as well as against others. You're actively working to make sure that you come out on top.
That's probably one of my favorites to do. The last one I want to mention is War. And that can take forever. Basically, you just keep flipping cards, and the higher card wins, and you take it. If you tie, you have 3 face down cards.
One,
you flip the final one.
Tie. 1, 2, 3, tie. Oh, dude, I haven't played War in forever. And don't you just go until somebody runs out of cards?
Yep, you just keep going until you hold the entire deck.
Oh my god.
So it can last like a half hour for one game.
Oh man, I've seen it where people have like flipped. Oh, same card. All right, and then you lay your 3 face down. All right, flip the next one. Oh my god, another tie. 1, 2, 3, flip. Oh my god, another tie. It was absolutely nuts. It was hilarious. War is a fun one, but yeah, I like War for its simplicity.
Yeah. Not for the time it takes.
as far as we're bringing up, then I'll just circle back to In Between, which is a game I play with my family. Me and my brothers like to play it a lot, and we save up our quarters specifically for this game because this game turns it can turn heated. It doesn't usually, but it can turn heated. So the general rule or the general way that the game is played is the dealer cycles clockwise once every hand and they shuffle it up. But you start out with the deck, you lay one card down, and then you lay another card next to it. And let's say the first card you laid was a 3, next card you laid was a 7. And then you literally just go around in a circle. So, like, you'll start, I'll be like, Joe, you have 3 and a 7. Do you think the next card's in between? And if you say yes, yeah, I think that the next card that you flip will be in between 3 and 7. All right. How much do you want to bet? I want to bet 50 cents because everybody antes up 1/4 into the pot. However many players there are, everybody antes in 1/4. So then you go, okay, I want to bet 50 cents. Now, if I flip the next card and it's an 8 or it's outside of 3 and 7, well, then you lost your 50 cents. That's more money in the pot. But if you win, then you get to take 50 cents from the pot. Pretty basic, right? And everyone just goes around and then, you go to the next guy and then you go, all right, you got 2 and king. You think it's going to be in between? Yeah. How much you want to bet? I want to bet the pot. Boom. Laid a 5. Cool. That guy takes the whole pot. Everybody antes up another quarter, and you just keep going like this. So it's a simple game, and it's not very high stakes. Like I said, we all save our quarters so that at the end of the day, somebody walks away with maybe enough money for a case of beer for the next time or something. Here's where this gets heated, right? Because this is sounding pretty basic for right now. Where this gets heated is if you, so like let's say you had a 2 and a king, right? And they're like, all right, you think the next card's going to be in between? And you say, oh, yeah, I think the next card's going to be in between. How much do you want to bet? And you count up all the quarters. You're like, oh, there's $2.50 in quarters in the pot. Oh, I want to bet the whole pot. And they flip the next card, and the next card is a 2 or a king, and it matches any one of your 2 parameter cards. Not only do you lose the bet, but then you also have to pay in double what you originally bet. So if the pot's 250 and you bet 250, then you have to pay $5 into the pot, and now
That's
the pot's worth
crazy.
750. And we played this a couple of times, like family gatherings and stuff like that. I've seen that pot get up to like $30-$40 because it would be like, oh, you got a 3 and a queen, how much? Oh, we got $12 in the pot. I'll bet the pot. Boom, queen. Oh, you got to pay $24 into the pot. And then people reaching in, I got to run to the ATM quick. And it turns into a hilarious game. And it's usually all in good fun by the end of the night. Most of the time, we all just save our quarters, and it's not very often that you get to that level of it. But that's where that game can get heated because sometimes people just get unlucky, and boom, suddenly your pot just jumped from $2 to 5 to 15 to 30, and you're like, how did we get here this quick? It's a lot of fun.
There was one game we played one family Christmas. I wish I could remember it, but it was something similar, but with dollars, and it was a dice game, and you had to roll a certain amount, and it's
Yahtzee.
like not Yahtzee, but I think if you got a pair, you kept your dollars. If you got, I think it was like a dice with only 3 things on it, so 6-sided dice, but 2 things
Yeah.
each. And then you had to give $1 to the person next to you. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. I don't really remember it. But the game I was going to say, which you can buy, I find it fun. I've played it with multiple people. Some people find it fun. Some people find it frustrating. Some people are just confused. The game is called Exploding Kittens.
I
Lots
feel
of
like
fun.
I've heard of this, but I don't remember it.
Probably because I'm like, hey, we should play it.
Probably.
Basically, there's different cards that do different things. I think Debbie might be grabbing it for me right now so I can show it off.
Oh boy.
But let's say there's 4 of us playing. There's going to be 3 exploding kitten cards. And basically, you don't want an exploding kitten. and there's different cards that like skip your turn, or you can see the top 3 cards, or you put the top card below. Um, and you do get like 1 diffuse card, so like if you pull an exploding kitten right away, you get 1 diffuse, and then you can put that
Okay.
card anywhere in the deck. The exploding kitten card.
Oh, dangerous.
Yeah. I find it a lot of fun. Like I said, I've had mixed reviews. I've played it with different groups, which
I feel
is
like it's entirely situationally dependent. Depending on how your first time goes with it, is going to be your determination for how much you like. That definitely sounds like one of those games that it's like, man, this sucks. It's like those people who found out that technically you can't double stack the +2s and the +4s in Uno. It's like, this is bullshit. Just,
it's funny because on the online game you can do that.
I know, and everyone's done it for years, and then Uno comes out with the whole, oh, you technically can't double stack it. Screw you, house rules. I'm doing it my way. Although, have you ever seen, so you know those wild cards, um
The
not
plus
the
four,
plus not the
or
plus
just the
fours, but
regular.
the blank ones where you can draw in your own
Oh,
cards.
like in the meme, it's like do
Yeah,
this or draw 25 cards.
yes, dude, some of those cards that I've seen, some people have had some really good ideas. Like one of them is the communist card. Everyone's hands get shuffled together and then redistributed evenly amongst the group.
On
Um,
on the online version, they have like different DLCs, and there's a card that does do that. Uh, Online YouTubers that I've watched have called it the Suck Dragon because it's a dragon that comes out, sucks all the cards up, and then distributes them. Uh,
it
there's,
sounds like a terrible name.
yeah, I know.
Oh
There's
man, I got the suck dragon when we were playing that game last night. What did he say?
there
Like,
they have a Rabbids version as well, like the Rayman
Rabbids.
Rabbids.
Yep,
Uh,
Rabid Raymond.
there's one that puts a bomb on the deck, so the next person who has to draw from the deck has to draw 4 additional cards on top of it.
Ooh.
I haven't. I feel like Uno's stupidly expensive, so I
Oh,
don't
dude,
play.
it gets.
Like it's like $5 for like 15 cards or whatever it
Is
is.
that really what it's up to these days?
I I know every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I want to buy it, and it's like this thin little deck for like $10. It's like that's just like I want
Man,
I want a deck like that I can't
yeah,
even
you
hold in my hand for 10 bucks.
used to be able to get them fat decks for like super cheap.
Yeah, they're outrageous. I think it is like $10 for a starter deck, and it's probably like 30 cards. It looks like it anyway.
Man, everything's getting expensive these days.
Uh,
All right, well, since we've talked about cards and we originally stated this that we were going to be talking about board games, do we want to shift over into board games, or did you have any more card games that might be of interest to our listeners out there?
I mean, I've mentioned it before. Like, I've gotten into Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit. I find it really confusing. I've thought it. I have Magic the Gathering cards too, but I just haven't taken the time to like properly learn it. Uh, Games like that, I really want to learn and get into, but it's
Pot of
also
Greed. Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed. You guessed it. Blue Eyes White Dragon.
I find Yu-Gi-Oh really fun, but very complicated. There's a
I never
lot you have to
understood
know.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
But yeah, we can go into board games. A lot of them that from my childhood I've started to play with my future stepdaughter. So like Candyland, we ended up getting Trouble,
Candyland.
but we got it in a Bluey version. So Bluey the TV show,
Oh.
and they have little some of the spaces, I should say, have little things from the show. Like there's a magic xylophone. There's an asparagus piece that is a reference to the show, and you do certain things for those certain spaces that, and
Pertains to
like
the show.
like the magic xylophone is in the show. Every time you ding it, like the person you do it to has to freeze. So in Trouble, you lose your turn because you're frozen for a turn.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, that's cute. I like that.
And like all the pieces are Bluey characters, so you can pick Bluey Bingo, mom or dad, which I think is really cute as well.
Oh, sorry. It just popped into my head because you mentioned Candyland, and then you mentioned Trouble, and I started thinking back. I used to have Trouble. Trouble is the one, or is
With the
that
popper.
Sorry?
With the
Yeah,
popper. Trouble is the one
that's
with the popper. Sorry has the
okay.
cards.
Okay. Um, there was one more game that I just thought of. It had to do with cherries,
Hi
and
ho Cheerio.
oh my man, hi
We
ho
had so
Cheerio.
many board games. That was one of them. That one was super fun too.
I forgot all about that game until you just started talking about like Candyland. I was like, man, there used to be this game I used to play growing up. It had something to do with cherries. I don't even remember how to play that game.
I
I don't
don't
even remember what
either.
you had to do. I just know
I
that
know
you
you
had.
collected cherries.
Yeah, didn't it used to come with like a whole bunch of little like
Oh yeah.
cherry
Oh
toys?
yeah.
You used to be like this whole
I'm sure
box.
I'm sure my parents still have it at their house.
You get like this little wicker basket, I think, and you had to like put them in there or
I
something. I
don't
think
remember
to
what the
that.
win condition was, but
I don't even remember why you were collecting cherries in the first place.
another one, an oldie but a goodie, is Don't Break the Ice. Such a pain to set up, but so fun. Do you know it?
I feel did it have some sort of platform with these
Yes.
ice chunks that would like
Yes.
fit together?
Yes.
Okay. I can picture it in my mind,
So you
but
can
I
set it.
can't remember what you needed to do. I'm gonna look it
Yeah.
up while you talk about it.
So you set it up however you want. You have this little ice skating figure that's like 4 blocks big, and you can set them up anywhere. And then you press press it all down, and then you have little
Yeah.
hammers, and the goal is like Jenga. Jenga's
Oh yeah,
so you
and
want
then
to knock
because
ice cubes down, but you don't want to knock the skater off. But you want to knock
yeah,
down as many as you can. Such
because
a
that
pain to
way
set up.
it got to a certain point where like if you'd hit one, then they would all just
Yep,
and then
like
yeah, then
Jenga.
you would lose. I remember that game. That game was a lot of fun. Did you ever have it just in the spirit of fun little ones like this? Did you ever have that little it was like a little game deal. It was a bunch of like different shapes and letters with these little yellow pieces, and at the
Yes,
top you would
we
wind the little timer, and you'd try and get them all in there before it and blow up on you. Oh, dude, that game gave me a heart attack as a
we
kid.
didn't have it, but my daycare provider had it, and I played that a lot. That one was super fun.
I don't
Um,
know why the buzzer on that thing always scared the
yeah.
shit out of me because it was like that, and it would just fling pieces everywhere. I would jump even if I knew it was coming, I would jump.
Um, Another one I always played with my grandma, the one that I played a lot of card games with. We would always do checkers, and never really
Classic
got into
check.
chess. I've always wanted to, but like just classic checkers is really fun to me. Um,
Oh,
t-
what was it? What was it? I don't know if this is still the appropriate name for it, so don't crucify me. But we always called it Chinese checkers, and I don't know if you ever saw what it
Thank
was
you
like in
for
the.
reminding me. I was gonna talk about it, but we were talking about other things. Yes, Chinese checkers is one. One that's similar. I've heard is similar. Aggravation.
Aggravation, because didn't you have to like jump the marbles and remove theirs or something similar to that? I don't remember how to play it. I remember I used to have this whole big tin that had a bunch of stuff in it for that, but I don't even
You,
remember how to play that
you probably had
anymore.
Chinese checkers. I grew up playing aggravation, which apparently is similar, but you had these little balls that you had to move all the way around this huge map. But every time you hit someone, they move back to start. So That's why it was called Aggravation, because the
Yeah,
map
and it
is
was
huge. But if you
it was like
landed
a
on,
6-pointed star, wasn't it?
yeah,
Was it like a 6-pointed star with the little marbles, and then you'd move the marbles?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay,
But
yeah, same,
Chinese checkers
similar
also
game.
looks the same,
Okay.
so it's hard for me to know exactly what you're. I really want to get Aggravation. I haven't played it since I was a little kid.
What about Mancala? You ever play
I
Mancala?
loved Mancala. I got really good at that game.
I remember that you had to move the stones from little divot to divot,
Yep,
and you had to collect them in your little end tray.
yep.
But I don't remember what like the premise for moving your stones was, and or how
The,
you
the
had to.
amount the amount of stones you had on your side, you moved how many stones. You just kept moving them, like one went in each little divot,
Yep.
and then you put one in your home base, and then you kept going until you were out. And then the next person would go and do the same.
Yeah, because wasn't it you would have to like you're like, okay, I want to move these, so then you would scoop up and you had to drop one in each little
Yep.
divot until you worked your way back.
And then I think if you landed, like your last one landed in your little end area, you got to go again.
Yeah, something
Because
like that.
then I figured out like how to constantly keep going, like make sure I had enough in each little area so I could just keep going and going until my side was empty.
Yeah, I'm looking up a picture that has some poorly explained rules on it. I don't remember.
I
I
haven't
don't
played
remember
it in a
how in the
long
world I
time.
played half of these games.
There's a lot I'm still trying to think of. Like I have some in my head, but I don't really remember how to play it.
Cribbage. I always liked playing
I've
cribbage.
never played cribbage.
Fun.
I'm sure
Super
I'd
fun.
enjoy it, but
It's cards and a little board for scoring. You work in teams with other players. That's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
I can't really think of any other board games except like the really basic one. Wait, I thought of one. Ah, I think it's
We just
called.
glossed over.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cabinet where we have our board games, and there's one.
Ah,
I think it's like the most dangerous. What is it? Ah, worst case scenario.
worst case
Worst case scenario. Please look it up. So I went to a thrift store with my girlfriend at the time, and we're like, "Oh, this looks like a fun game. Like it's we played it and we weren't expecting what
To
it
be
actually is."
to be so entertained by it. Worst case scenario is a card game and party board game. The card game is 0% trivia and 100% humorous fun and is based on the New York Times best-selling Worst Case Scenario Survival Handbook. What an opener. What a way to
So,
introduce the game.
what we thought it would be this like I don't know what we were thinking at the time
Even
anymore,
expecting just
but pick up a card and it's like how do you survive a jellyfish sting? Like just like survive like out in the wild, like surviving like events, like how do you survive? And if you got it right, you got to move as many spaces as you rolled. If you didn't get it right, well, you stayed in place. It's good humor
interesting.
for the first few times, and then it's like, okay, I'm bored of this game. Like,
Everyone knows the jellyfish one. You pee on it.
yeah.
There, I feel like, well, I'm going to say this now, just because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to be talking about the fact that we've skipped over the big one.
Monopoly.
Yeah,
I was
everyone knows
literally
that
just
game.
looking at it.
Everyone's okay. I'll say this: to this date, my favorite version of Monopoly is the electronic one, the one where you got the little card reader and everyone gets bank cards and you would like swipe and chip and do it that way. Like
I don't think I played
everything
that.
about it was basic, but instead of the paper money, it was a little card reader thing. And I don't know why, I just thought the gimmick of that was the coolest thing ever, because everyone would get a credit card and the banker had the little till and you just whoop, and then it stayed on your card. That was the money you had.
I had one Monopoly game. It was like Monopoly Stocks, and it was so bland.
They've
Honestly, like instead of
you draw the oh what are the two card piles you can draw from?
chance
Random
and
chance.
community chest.
You draw from the random chance. Your stocks bump 1.8%. You sell everything and gain a $30 profit. Can you just imagine? Man, I gotta hand over all my properties and I get an extra $30.
For the game, it was like you got these little things that like stacked on top of each other, and as soon as you hit the top, like you won. And games would last like 15 minutes. Like you
Oh
just
my
have
God.
someone who could buy a bunch of stocks, and like the Coke one was one of the bigger ones, so it filled up faster, and it was kind of boring. I didn't really enjoy it.
Oh man.
But
Go ahead.
unless you got more board games, I was gonna move on.
Well, I just had it's stupid because it's technically a board game. It's kind of like Risk, except this game is apparently it is quoted to take, I think, an average of 1,500 hours to complete. And anyone who's familiar with their board games will probably immediately know what I'm talking about. And it is called The Campaign for North Africa. It is a Risk style game that essentially recreates the battle and the conquest for North Africa in World War II. And so you have all your different factions. You have Germany and Italy and the United States. But the reason that it takes so long to complete is that this game is like super in depth. Like you have to manage like your logistical supply for your troops and like water and ammunition, and like you even have to account like the Italian troops. If you pick Italy, you have to account for the extra water rations the Italians get so they can boil their pasta. Like that's how insanely in depth this game is, and it's
What?
supposed to yeah, you have to account for the extra water ration. If you compare all the other countries, Italy, their troops take more water rations so that they can boil their pasta because you need food to fight a war. It takes like 1,500 hours to complete. And I just want to see that game just to see like what are all the aspects that are in it, man. That's got to be something. Who devised that? Why? For what purpose?
That's kind of like the worst case scenario game. Like I understand the purpose, but why?
What? Who gets
But that
enjoyment out of this?
kind of a good segue because I wanted to talk about games that we would want to get. Board
Yeah.
games or any kind of games, and one that comes to mind, I've watched online play of it, but I want to play it in person. It's called Mysterium.
Mysterium.
It's kind of like Clue, kind of. There is a ghost. One person is the ghost. They cannot speak to the others. Basically, you go through and you try and figure out who committed the murder, where, and with what, again. But the ghost gives you clues, and it's like different picture cards, and you have to decipher what they're trying to tell you through the cards.
Oh,
And
that sounds interesting. That sounds really good.
And everyone has to guess all of theirs correctly to get to the end game. And then the end game, the ghost picks one of those people, like the scenarios, and then we'll give everyone cards, and they have to guess which one is the correct final scenario. So the people work together to like figure out who has
Solve
what.
the case.
Like because you can help like your buddy. Let's say you got done with your 3, you guessed them correctly. You can still help your friends get theirs, like, oh, I think the ghost is telling you this. But
Yeah,
once you
you
get to
can.
the end game, it's like a solo game.
Okay,
So
so
it's a
yeah, you
team
get to the
game
end game.
until the end, and then you guess on your own.
And who is the winner? Is it like whoever figures out the scenario first, or is it
Uh, so
who? I get how do you, what's the if you
the
can
win
define
condition
what the
is just
winner is?
basically like as long as you get the final one correct, you win. So it's like you win as a team,
Oh,
and then if you all guess the same correct one, you all win, or multiple
oh,
people.
okay. Well, that's kind of cool because then it's kind of like you're not necessarily competing so much as you're trying to see like, can I win this
Yeah,
compared with everyone else trying to win this? Can we all win this, or is it only some of us? That's kind of
yeah.
nice. I like that.
Yeah, so like you work together as a team to help each other out with your individual cases, and then the ghost gives everyone the same one, but you can't talk about it. So it's a team game, and then it's a solo game at the end.
Okay, 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 okay. I'm
And then
following.
if the team doesn't get all of theirs correct by the certain round limit, then you lose. Everyone loses.
Interesting. Very interesting. I'd love to see that. That sounds like a fun game to play. Sounds like a fun game to play with bigger groups.
Yeah.
If you can get together bigger groups. Um, well, I guess as far as games that I would like to try, this kind of falls in the realm and kind of out of the realm because on one hand, I've already played this, but on the other hand, I haven't played this version of it. D&D. I don't. It's
Yes.
not necessarily considered a board game, but it's a tabletop game, and
Tabletop.
we've had a couple of homebrew games here. With one of my buddies was our DM, and we had a lot of fun with it. And for any purists out there, we are not strict rule followers. We follow the rule of cool. If it sounds like something fun you want to try, roll for the fences, my dude. Let's see what happens. Um, but something that I wanted to try and that I thought would be a fun mashup because I'm a big fan of Fallout is Fallout D&D.
I've thought about that as well. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
And there is actually a handbook out there that works with fifth edition D&D. It sort of goes hand in hand to make it work. It's not a direct translation. I think there's some wiggle room for like home rules and stuff like that, but I've looked at that a little bit, and I've always thought it would be super cool to design like a homebrew campaign sort of around the specs that the Fallout D&D um, gives, and I've thought out a few of the I guess rules. I guess you could say rule. I thought of a few of the rules myself and like what I would implement, but I've been very slacking on really hitting her hard, so we haven't got to try it yet. But that's something that I would really like to give an attempt to is Fallout D, and just to see how that goes, just to kind of give. Not that I'm against the fantasy setting in any way, shape, or form, but it would be really cool just to see some different mechanics introduced into the game and see what you can do with that and what kind of shenanigans you can get up to with that at your side. So
Yeah,
I was that'd be fun.
I was gonna say my fiance and her roommate have like we want to do a D&D campaign, but we also might want to incorporate like Discord and get friends involved and have a because I know one of my friends does that on Discord, and I might have to get with him and just see how it works. But um, we're trying to decide if we want to do it on Discord or just the three of us at home. And I love the idea of doing it Fallout wise. I I can also see my fiance and roommate just being chaotic. It's like, hey, let's add this, and for the most part, I probably okay most of it. Just because I'd rather just everyone have their own little piece and have fun. Like I create the backbone of the story,
And then
and
you just go from there.
yeah,
I mean,
I
honestly, sometimes some of the best fun you can have with D&D is to almost run an improv, like just get a skeleton of a story, a structure that you want to follow, and be like, all right, I'm just going to release these characters and see where they go. And depending on where you go, I'll just build around that.
yeah. I have one coworker who is a DM, and he says that they get together every other weekend, and he'll design like 2 hours of a story, and sometimes they'll get through it, sometimes they won't, just with all the, craziness that can happen. I really want to do that. Um,
Oh yeah.
Another tabletop game that I might be getting into is Warhammer. Um, my
as
roommates,
we as we
yeah,
slightly discussed before we started recording.
yeah. Um, my roommate, my cousin, and a buddy of mine are big Warhammer fans, and they've been trying to get me into it, and I think I'm kind of caving in a bit. Listen to some lore today, and it's like, okay, like I can definitely see how this is very interesting, and there's a lot of different paths you can go. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the tabletop or anything about it. I just know a general. I wrote down a list of the things that sounded interesting to me today. Uh, but my roommate and I were talking before we were recording. It's like, what if we got multiple people into it, and then like once a year we made it like a special weekend where all of us get together and play it, and
Come
just
together as a group and
just the more we
create
talked about it, it's
chaos.
like I'm very tempted to get
I
into
mean,
it for that.
as I told you before we started recording, yeah, I don't hardly know anything about Warhammer 40k. I know bits and pieces of the lore. I know just enough to laugh at some of the memes that I see come across my feed and stuff like that. But one of the things, like I told you, that always makes me laugh is just the faction of orcs that if they believe it hard enough, it happens. Because I saw someone post a thing like, well, if you could convince orcs that you had a superpower, could you just wake up one day and have that superpower? Like, that would be the coolest thing in the world, man.
Yeah, if you don't know anything about Warhammer, I mean, Ian and I don't really know a lot, but we know that it's extensive, and there's
Big, deep.
like there's tabletop, there's books, there's video games. I'm pretty sure there's TV show. There's so much to digest, and going into it, it's more like I want to figure out how to get into it, but every YouTube video is like an hour long,
It's
and
definitely a daunting thing. Like when you look at it, and everyone has different ideas on what you should learn first, and it's like, guys, this is a lot of information. Please just let me pick a point and start.
yeah, which the three guys I was talking about, like they've said, first thing, just pick a faction that you think you'd like and go from there. So I've narrowed it down to like several. Yes, narrowed it down to several
Narrowed
factions
it
that I want
down
to
to
look
several.
into.
That's a very daunting sentence to say when you're talking about the lore
I'm gonna see how
of a
many I have
tabletop game.
written down.
Hey,
Uh,
don't you be messing with cables under there.
I have 9
Love.
factions written down. 9, and that's narrowing it down. I mean, some I have
Quite,
written down, and there's like sub factions within that faction.
there's a sub faction within the faction. You choose this
It's
faction,
not
and
great.
what sub faction do you want to use within this faction? There's too much going on here, dude. Got to keep it
But
simple. I got a small brain, pretty smooth. Can't think that much.
but like I've told my roommate, like I'm definitely interested in the idea. I just got to figure out what I want to do, and if I want to sink my time into that, I got to figure out when I'm going to, because we got the podcast and I got other stuff. Like I just keep getting projects and I'm falling behind. So
Stack it on top of the to-do list and put a box around it.
yeah.
We get there when we get there.
Is there any other games that you can think of?
None off the top of my head. Honorable mention card game that I thought of while we were talking is a Cyanide and Happiness card game. I
Oh,
don't know if
I've
you've ever seen that one in the
Joking
stores.
Hazard.
Joking Hazard, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that one's a
That
lot of
game looks
fun.
hilarious.
It's sometimes it can be tough, sometimes it can be fun. The general gist of it is that every player gets a handful of cards, and I forget exactly how the order works, but essentially each player lays down one card in order to make a 3-panel comic. And I forget how they decide how to take the turns and stuff like that. But yeah, you're trying to lay down, or no. So the dealer lays down, I think it's 2 cards, and that's the original body of your 3-panel comic, and then every player lays down what they think would be a funny card to finish that 3-panel comic, and then the group votes on who's got the funniest one, and then they get the points. Kind of similar to Cards Against Humanity rules, I
But you're making
believe.
a comic.
But yeah, it's pretty funny. There's some funny stuff in there that definitely gets the chuckles going.
But we've been going for a while. I think it's about time to wrap this up. Let
Think-
us know
think
down
we-
below about if you have any board games, card games that you enjoy or that you want to get into. Let us know. We'll see what Ian's going to look up, and then we'll do quotes.
I was just looking at my quotes.
Oh, perfect.
When I was looking
Okay.
up, I was like, oh, I don't have a quote picked. I got to go pick one.
Since I've talked about him a lot and he left this on my screen, my roommate left me a quote. You are dramatically underestimating my ability to be a moron.
The bar was low, but here I am with a pickaxe. My quote is, any intelligent fool can make things bigger, more complex, and more violent. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. Magic. I don't know. That was a lot of word salad.
Yeah, we've said a lot of
It was
words
fun.
tonight.
Yeah, I like word salad. Sometimes it's fun. Just throw words out into random open and see where they stick. I don't know. It's not my strongest photosynthesis.
We should do Mad Libs sometimes.
That would be a lot of fun. Do Mad Libs for an episode? I could get behind that.
But this is the end of this episode. Subscribe to become a bud today. Thank you for BSing with us today, and we will see you next time when I figure out what Warhammer faction I'm gonna be a part of.
Hopefully, I can figure some of that out too, and we'll see where we get. We'll see if we've got even a fraction of the lore digested by that point.
Probably not, but
Till then, take her easy now.